Halo, selamat pagi, selamat siang, selamat sore, selamat malam, whichever time of the day you're accessing this video. My name is Anita Dewi, or you can call me Bu Anita. I'm a research and learning coordinator at the Matheson Library and a learning skills advisor for Asian studies and languages, including, of course, Indonesian studies. I wish I could invite and welcome you to the Matheson Library, just like what we usually did with our Indonesian studies students, and show you our rich Indonesian collections, which is one of the largest and most comprehensive Indonesian research collections in the Southern Hemisphere. We'll do it when we're back on campus next time. There are two short videos to help you prepare your third assessment, writing tasks for knowing Indonesia through research. In this video, we will analyze the task and look at how we should present the research. In the second video, Bu Reni, our subject librarian for Indonesian studies, will guide you through our library databases in searching for and evaluating resources that are relevant to your topic, that is the researcher that you will be writing about, and of course also in citing and referencing correctly. Let's begin the first part now. There are numerous researchers on Indonesia, as Pak Julian said in his welcome lecture, both those of Indonesian backgrounds and others who are commonly known as researchers on Indonesia or Indonesianist. Objects and context of research on Indonesia also vary. One of the most frequently researched geographical areas is Yogyakarta, which symbolic monument, Tugu Jogja, you can see here. This is just one example of geographical areas and cultural context that researchers have focused on historically as well as currently. What about other areas? Well, as I've said before, there are a lot of other geographical and cultural contexts that researchers have done on Indonesia. As you know, there is Rumfius, whose study was on Ambon. Some other examples include Professor Yoskote on the figure of Kartini, who is the national heroine for women emancipation, the late Professor Merle Reclus with one of his outstanding books on Prince Sambernyowo of Surakarta entitled The Soul Catcher, and many more. What I'm trying to say here is that you have plenty of researchers as your options for the assessment task. Having said that, though, we certainly want to make sure that you do the right thing, that you do what you are asked to do, and answer the questions that you are asked to respond. These are the details of the task. This contains the what aspect. That is the what you need to do. Let's read through the details carefully. This assessment task corresponds to the Knowing Indonesian through Research component of your course. You will make an entry for a directory of researchers about Indonesia. This will be in the form of a 1,500 word piece of writing. The subject of this entry will be a researcher who has published a substantial body of research on Indonesia. The researcher can be from any era and can have written in any language. There are a number of important what elements that you don't want to miss here. It is an entry. It is 1,500 words. It is on a researcher, that is one researcher who has done research on Indonesia. It can be of any era or any time and of any language. The next component of the task is the why aspect. It is really important that you understand why your lecturer asked you to do this assessment task. Why questions make the most of research generally. If you consider these 4 points, you will see where the task is heading, what you are expected to demonstrate and practice. As you can see here, you are expected to practice skills in research, present the research, demonstrate the way you use resources, be aware of Indonesia-related research meta, and be part of a group. You can see that only point 3 is specifically related to Indonesian studies. Once you've gained skills in the other 3, you can then use and implement them in different contexts and areas of studies. The third aspect is the how. That is how to present correctly for this task. A few points are indicated in the task, including providing written information and analysis. This means that you are expected to be critical and analytical in writing about the researcher of your choice. The first 2 points are predominantly descriptive. You need to write a brief biography of the researcher and a summary of the work that has been done, particularly in terms of the most important or the most representative one. One of the easiest ways to identify this is by looking at the number of citations of the work that has been done. For example, if you see 2 publications of the same author, one with, say, 100 citations and the other with just 2 or 3 citations, you tend to think that the 100 cited work is the more important work of that author. For example, if you choose to write about Jos Kote, a researcher that I mentioned earlier in this video, you would want to focus on his biographical work of Kartini, the Indonesian heroine for women emancipation. He has done a lot of research and has written a lot of publications, but Kartini's biography is the most important and the most representative of his work, so you would want to focus on it. You need to include the historical, political, and other contextual situations about the research. That is point 3. In the context of Jos's research on Kartini, this will include description on the time when Kartini was alive, that is during the Dutch occupation in Indonesia, the political situation at that time, how at that time the Dutch governed the East Indies, a significant part of it is the nowadays Indonesia, how Javanese females were expected to behave in the traditional Javanese society, because Kartini was a Javanese woman, and so on. Including, for example, Jos's stance as a researcher with a Dutch background doing investigation on an Indonesian controversial figure during the Dutch occupation. What you address in point 3 will then lead you to point 4, that is the reasoning of why the researcher's work and background, as you will have addressed in point 3, is important. Again, taken from Jos's research on Kartini, you would want to say explicitly the importance of Jos's research on Kartini and why you think so. In brief, as I've put in my note here, your work should be descriptive plus critical and analytical. As you may have heard numerous times from your lecturers, this is critical thinking in place. Okay, now we come to more nitty-gritty of the task. Please remember that the due date is 11:55 p.m. on Friday, 22nd of May. My suggestion is for you to finish drafting at least 2 or 3 days beforehand to give you enough time for editing and proofreading. Editing deals with content, flow of the writing piece, and the structure, while proofreading deals with identifying grammatical, spelling, punctuation errors, style of language, and language tone. These are 2 different processes. So after your final draft is ready, edit first, then proofread before you submit. A tip from me, reading your draft aloud is always helpful when you do the editing and proofreading processes. The second point is including relevant pictures. While these are not marked, they tend to be helpful in guiding your reader, which in this case is your lecturer who will mark your assignment. Hence, I'd advise you to include relevant images. In incorporating text, images, and other sources into your writing, make sure you refer to them and attribute them correctly. This is point 3 here. Hureni is going to help you with citing and referencing correctly and give you more guidance on this, so make sure you watch the second video. The use of Indonesian terms? Yes, I would strongly suggest so. Make sure when you do it though, you put these terms in italics and include bracketed translation or glosses. Now, at the end of the day, we all want to get the highest mark possible, right? So don't forget to check your unit guide and have a look at the marking rubric. You can see here that the value of the selected researcher's work and contextualization of the researcher in historical, political, or scientific context makes almost 30% of the marks, 7 out of 20. Academic language use and relevant resources use are each 4 out of 20. Your use of Indonesian terms, well, you'll get the 2 point for it. And if you cite and reference correctly, then you get the 3 full points for free. The last 2 notes on this task are reiteration of what I have covered before. No need to read all the researcher's writing. Focus on the most important one, the highlight. Read the main work, then make sure you do the last point here. Read the evaluations by other researchers about your researcher's work. Again, this is just reinforcing what is stated in the presentation requirements section. Your task is to be descriptive plus critical and analytical. Make sure you include work of others that comment about your researcher and evaluate your researcher. I hope by now you have a clear understanding of what to do, why your lecturer wants you to do it, and how to present it correctly. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me at my email address. It's right here. Finally, don't forget to watch Purani's video on finding and evaluating resources, as well as citing and referencing for your assessment task. Bye for now. Sampai jumpa.